Together, we are going to address this situation piece by piece. This is a very bizarre situation, and we're going to examine exactly why in just a second. But I can offer to you right now that looking at it and reflecting back on the history of the American indigenous, there are a number of parallel dynamics going on. And so, when looking at this situation, one perhaps has a better understanding of how the situation with the American indigenous took place. So, we are talking about under siege right now. Under siege meaning that an entity is besieged, it is encircled, it is surrounded. And the question, however, is who is under siege, what is under siege, and why? And the answer to the who and what is under siege is quite amazing. And so we're going to look at the hidden identity of the entity that is under siege. Before we get started, I want to point out that we don't have really good, valid, and reliable information coming from this part of the world right now for a number of reasons, and one is censorship. But we are going to address what we do have available according to the standard narrative. Briefly, here are some of the headlines that we have here on this side of the world. It indicates here Israel attacks Rafah as it questions ceasefire terms. And here we have another headline. This is from the Independent. The other one was the Wall Street Journal. Israel-Gaza Live. IDF launches airstrikes on Rafah after ordering 100,000 to evacuate part of the city. And here is the Washington Post indicating Middle East conflict live updates. Israel orders 100,000 civilians to leave Rafah, says it will operate with extreme force. And this is supposed to be a depiction of the evacuees leaving Rafah, going to the next refugee area. Now, of course, what's noteworthy about all of this is that the people were initially herded into Rafah, and it was indicated that this was supposed to be the safe space. However, attacks continued and continue, and now the people are being told that they have to leave Rafah and go to another safe location. We are not talking about a few people. We are talking about a large group of civilians. And as we start down this road of analysis, I want to point out something historically. In 2020, Jerusalem was recognized as the capital of Israel. Now, I want you to think about what you know about history and what you have perhaps read in scripture about the capital that is Jerusalem. Where historically was Jerusalem located? And so now Jerusalem is recognized as the capital of Israel. Is that the original location of Jerusalem? Was it the capital of Israel, or was it the capital of something else? I want you to think about that while we go on here. We're going to start off by looking at a couple of map depictions that are supposed to represent Palestine around the time period of 700 BC until what was identified as the exile of Judah. Now, this map is pretty interesting for a number of reasons. It's interesting for what's on the map, and it's also interesting for what's not on the map, or shall I say, who's on the map and who's not on the map. And so there is a color coding for the boundaries of the various places. And I want you to think about what is on the map and what is not on the map, or who is on the map and who is not on the map. And so we see some standard places that you might recognize, including Moab and Ammon and Assyria, the Philistines, Phoenicia, Judah. And here in this very interesting depiction, you see the various entities and how close they are to each other. They are really side by side and very much connected. And so what you see in what is Palestine, you see a number of entities. You see Philistine, you see Judah, you see Edomites, you see Moab, you see the Sea of the Araba, and you also see Bethlehem and Jerusalem, along with that Beth Shemesh that we've talked about before. You also see Hebron. You also see Rapha down at the bottom towards the left-hand side there. And so you see a number of things here, but somebody is missing. And if you have been studying scripture, you know who is missing from this map. What you also should know right now is who exactly is under siege. What you keep hearing right now is that the Palestinians are under siege. You hear Gaza is under siege. You hear the West Bank is under siege. But historically, related to this entire narrative, who exactly is under siege? What do you know about the history of the people that were there before and the people that were left behind? This is what makes this entire situation very odd and noteworthy. Whether you are a biblical scholar or you are a casual reader of the scripture, one of the things that you should have noted by now is that the entity that is under siege is known as the Kingdom of Judah. And that's the geographic area that we are talking about. And the people that are being referred to as Palestinian right now, many of them are left over from what is known as the Kingdom of Judah. You hear about these dispersals, these diasporas, you hear about exile, you hear about a number of these dynamics. What you don't often hear, however, is a large contingent of the Kingdom of Judah never left. And so they remained in the place that is known as Palestine. Of course, that is what complicates this situation. Why is the Kingdom of Judah under siege? How, given the current narrative of that situation over there, could the Kingdom of Judah even possibly be under siege? And who has the Kingdom of Judah under siege? Now, as you know, there are all of these odd naming dynamics that go on throughout history, and this is no exception. And so there's some confusion going on over there in that part of the world regarding the names of various entities. What's odd in this situation is you have this Kingdom of Judah that is under siege. And then you have an entity that has the Kingdom of Judah under siege that identifies as the Kingdom of Judah. However, simultaneously identifies as the Kingdom of Israel. If you don't know it, these are different entities. They are not the same tribes of people. They are distinct tribes of people. And so it's a very unusual dynamic that the kingdom of Judah would be referring to itself as Israel and take on that identity. And so that's a part of the confusion right there. Because what should be taking place right now is that they should all be going under the name of Judah, and the state should be named the state of Judah, given the narrative. And there should be no entity known as Israel, because the entity known as Israel, that particular kingdom, is dispersed. They are known, if you're not familiar with it, as the lost tribes. And so it's a totally different kingdom. And historically, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, those spaces are in the kingdom of Judah. In fact, Jerusalem is the capital of the kingdom of Judah. It is not the capital of the kingdom of Israel. And so right now it looks like an entity named Israel is at war with an entity known as Palestine. However, embedded in the entity understood as Palestine is the entity known as Judah. And the entity known as Israel historically included, depending on how you count this, 9 or 10 tribes, 9 or 10 nations that make up this kingdom. And then, depending on how you count it, the kingdom of Judah was made up of 3 to 4 nations or tribes. These entities had different kings, they had different advisors, they were genetically distinct because they were coming from different families. Also noteworthy is that the kingdom of Judah is identified as intermarrying with Ham, the Canaanites. They are identified as sort of, one and the same, essentially, because of this marriage dynamic. And so they are, part of that whole dynamic that is known as Palestine. And so there was a marriage between the groups of people. And so that's also very noteworthy and very similar to some of the dynamics that took place with the American indigenous. But what I want you to hold on to while we look at these names is this dynamic of 2 different kingdoms, but one entity identifying simultaneously as both kingdoms, which adds to quite a bit of the confusion. And it also makes things murky with respect to who exactly is under siege and who has who under siege. And so here you can see these dynamics. Israel is supposed to still be scattered. Okay. Judah also, to a degree, is scattered, but a large contingent remained in that area known as Palestine. And so they've been there for quite a while. This includes the area known as Jerusalem, the area known as Bethlehem, Nazareth, the temple. All of those things were in the kingdom of Judah. They were not in the kingdom of Israel. The kingdom of Israel, again, was another kingdom, also understood as the northern kingdom. And so they were the people of the north. Israel was the group known as the people of the north. Judah was understood as the southern kingdom. They were the people of the south. And so when you can see a map where both of these entities are indicated, you can see how Judah is in the south, the various tribes. that are related to Judah are in the south, and the various tribes related to Israel are in the north. Now, granted, the tribes associated with Israel made up more tribes, and so there's significantly more land space going on there. But with respect to what is under siege right now, what is under siege is the kingdom of Judah. And this might help you out with recognizing what's going on here. And so the entity known as the kingdom of Israel is, again, they are supposed to be scattered. The tribes or nations that were under that kingdom include Reuben, Naphtali, Asher, Ephraim, Dan, Manasseh, Issachar, Gad, Zebulun. There's a question about Simeon, because Simeon is often included in these 10 lost tribes. There's a belief that Simeon was a part of the 10 lost tribes. However, Simeon really went with the kingdom of Judah and was sort of absorbed into the kingdom of Judah. There's a narrative about why that took place. Also a narrative about why Levi is with the kingdom of Judah. And so with the kingdom of Judah, you have Judah, and then you have Simeon, Benjamin, and Levi. And so on the side of the kingdom of Judah, you have this kingdom of Judah, but you also have Levi, and we've talked about Levi extensively. Levi is the sort of the spiritual arm of the kingdom of Judah. And so you have this divided kingdom. What's also interesting, of course, is that you have this entity in Europe referring to itself as the United Kingdom, which is referencing this whole dynamic, because at one point there was a unification, there wasn't this separation. However, ultimately, these entities were separated, and again, they had different monarchs, different groups of people, different trajectories. These were different people on different paths. And also, it's important to again keep in mind that Judah and Ham or Ham were joined. It is also noteworthy that the Palestinian people are made up of a very interesting mixture in terms of genetics. And some of these genetics include very old DNA and some more recent. Another interesting notation is that some of the DNA appears to be related to or similar to some of the individuals that are currently in the Americas. As we wrap this up, there are a few things to make note of. Now, according to news reports, right now, the assault on Rafah has already begun. They purportedly evacuated 100,000 people, or 100,000 people were told to evacuate. We have no idea as to whether or not these people were actually able to evacuate yet again. And so the people were told to move again to another safe space. And so again, they are being herded into yet another space. The space that they were in, Rafah, that space was already under siege before the message was sent that they would be under siege. And so you can see, some of the pictures, the depictions of what was going on. And so Rafah being under attack is not something that just happened because these talks fell through. But what's more important than all of that is, how did Rafah end up being under siege, given the fact that Rafah is a part of the kingdom of Judah? Now, all of these biblical scholars, they know this. All of these teachers, they know this. They have to know this. They know the narrative around when Judah was exiled and when the northern kingdom was exiled and who remained behind. They know all of this. Okay. And so it doesn't even take a biblical scholar to recognize this reality. And so the question comes to mind, why is the kingdom of Judah under siege when it has been offered that this is going to be catastrophic? This is equivalent to the term that is used for Holocaust. This is known as a catastrophe. And what is most odd about this is that an entity identifying itself as Judah is attacking another entity that is identified as the kingdom of Judah. Only one is doing it in the name of the kingdom of Israel. Now, it's unclear exactly what the various geopolitical entities understand about this situation. It's unclear what the average person understands about this situation. But in those spiritual circles, it's very well understood who was in Palestine, who remained in Palestine, and who is currently under siege. And of course, one of the difficulties in this entire situation is that there has been so much name changing, and some of the name changing relates to religious conversion. And so you have entities that were in the kingdom of Judah that eventually converted to Islam. You have individuals who were in the kingdom of Judah that converted to Christianity. And so, because of these conversion dynamics, you have a number of individuals here that now have new identities. But under the surface of those new identities is an entity that is understood in Scripture as the kingdom of Judah. One of the things that stands out related to when Judah is under siege is that Judah is supposed to flee not to the next city, but Judah is supposed to flee to the mountains. The problem, however, is the separation of the kingdom of Judah. So you have one part of the kingdom of Judah mixed in with the people on one side of Palestine. And then you have what is identifying itself as the kingdom of Israel in the middle. And then another collective of the kingdom of Judah mixed in with the people of Gaza. And so the people of Gaza don't have any way to get to what's known as the mountain area. And so, in terms of scripture, what the people have been told to do when this takes place, they are unable to actually do that. And so they are being herded into these various locations. Now, the other issue is that many individuals see themselves on the right side of history or on the right side of the Bible. They are really invested in one dynamic or another based upon their understanding of Scripture. And you have a number of individuals that are really supportive of the removal of the Palestinian people. They are very supportive of by any means necessary, because they have told themselves that they who side with Abraham will be blessed, and they who oppose Abraham will be cursed. The problem is that people are at this current point unclear about what constitutes Abraham and what constitutes somebody else. And so, in an effort to get all of these blessings, people have very clouded vision. And so they can't even really analyze the situation because they are obsessed with their narcissistic need to be blessed by tying themselves to the Abrahamic identity. And so you have a number of individuals in the church who believe they are going to be blessed because they are on the side of what they understand to be Abraham. They believe that they are on the side of right. And many of them don't care whether they're on the side of right or not. All they care about is that they get a blessing. And they believe that they are on the side wherein the blessings will be flowing. And finally, make note of the fact that we are increasingly being pulled into these biblical narratives.